Now we're going to touch on another type of CSS selector called classes. So a class can be used to select multiple elements and style them all at once. In CSS, a class starts with a period or stop sign or full stop, followed by the name of the classes, followed by open and closing curly brackets. Of course, there's CSS rules within those curly brackets. And then in HTML, it follows a very similar convention to ID. Instead, we use class, and then the equal signs, open and closing curly brackets, and then the name of our class that we wrote in CSS. And again, notice that these patterns start repeating themselves over and over, just the names change. And now I'll show you a real example of the utility of classes. If we look at our final website, we see that everything is centered on it in the sections. In section 1, the About section, we notice that everything is centered there, and same in section 2, which is our video section. And we could write code that says section 1, text align center, section 2, text align center, but we would be repeating ourselves. And in coding, we have this concept called dry, or don't repeat yourself. And classes allow us to not repeat ourselves. So if we look at our example website here, if we wanted everything to be aligned centered, what we would do is we would assign a class to each one of these sections. And I'm going to make a class called content for each section, because each section hosts its content. And again, we create a class in our CSS using the period or full stop, the name of the class, in this case content, opening and closing curly braces, the rules you want to apply, text align center. I'm going to give it a background color of red, just so you see where it applies. Now if we refresh this, nothing happens. It's not aligned centered. And that's because, just like IDs, we haven't linked it in our HTML. And to link it, you write class, equal signs, open and closing quotes, and the name of the class, in this case content. See, so far, if you reload this, it only applied it to one section. You have to apply the same class of content to the second section. And if we reload, both sections are now red. And if we inspect our code, we can see that in real time. The content there is red and content there is red. And this is a fundamental difference between classes and IDs. For example, we can't do another ID of logo here. It wouldn't work. We can only have one ID on the page, but we can have multiple classes and use classes as much as possible. It's one of the CSS selectors that you'll be using very frequently.